What is up, game theorists? First, quick announcement, y'all. Y'all? Hope that doesn't stick in my vocabulary.
Get out of Mississippi.
Listeners, here's what's going to happen. No, we were going to have Russell Glasser on this week. I just got a last minute notification. Didn't check up with him yesterday. Checked him up this morning. It's like, hey, man, we were supposed to talk about Telltale Games. He had another obligation, so it's going to be next week. But we've got a pretty good one for you this week, I hope. First, David, how's life, man? You're finally back in your Shea Drake.
Yes, got in late last night, so work starts tomorrow. It's going to have today just to kind of clean this place up and maybe play a video game this Christmas break. How about that?
That would be insane. Your computer took a crap, didn't it?
It did, but my brother managed to fix it once again by nuking the entire thing. So today's going to be spent like resalvaging the downloads of games that I've lost, and hopefully some of them are up on the cloud, so I have to start over on them. But I also get to find out that apparently my new EA Origins account name is Nikki Beast Mode, and my new profile picture is a webcam whore. So that's fun. I got hacked.
I'm glad the life's looking good for you then.
Yes, well, I mean, it's a good angle on my selfie here. Got my bra on and half of my face, just classic. Send me your credit card information and we can chat about video games.
Classic David.
It's what I do. So yeah, working on that. EA isn't open until Monday, so I'll have to call them and say like, hey, that's clearly a hacked account. Do you see how that happened? But luckily I was able to revert the email address back to my normal one, so I could still play my Star Wars Battlefront and such if I care to.
Cool. Well, that's fun. I've had a week of not a lot to do. We have this week kind of off. Like everyone on campus is closed. There's nothing to do, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna goof off some. So I've been trying to get back in shape a little bit, and kind of a weird thing, I guess we could talk about in the review section. But yeah, so talk about that. But
cool.
Yeah, just trying to get happy and healthy, man. New Year's resolutions? Did you make any?
Nah, I'm just well, kind of. I made a budget for myself. I'm going to try and pay off my credit cards this year, so you can count that as a resolution. It just sort of coincided with New Year's, but yeah, why not? Let's say I'm becoming a better person, because this is the day to do it.
New Year's resolutions, by the way, if you guys don't know, don't work.
Yeah, we had an episode about that a couple of years ago, I think.
We did, yeah. How to make them work, because you can if you use psychology. They work very well, but the way most people do them, just how most people do them, the layperson, I don't know, that sounds demeaning. How most people use them, it doesn't work out. But I think it's a good practice. But anyway, yeah, so good. Let's get into the news section then, man. There's a little bit going on. All right, this is the news section when we talk about stuff that's in the news. I know the name is weird, but it's true. That's what we do. So today we are going to be talking about a few different things. David, you want?
Yes. Yes, I do. You're experiencing some technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Hey.
Internet's crazy. Fair disclaimer to everyone, I have been having some internet troubles, but hey, let's give it a second.
New and unusual.
We'll edit that part out. So,
all right. Yeah. So my first news item: Final Fantasy IX is coming to the PC and to iOS.
Did you play Final Fantasy IX?
I did. That was in high school. My girlfriend then, she was super into that game, so she actually had it. She kept having me come over and play it. and I eventually beat it over there. It was one of those games that I probably wouldn't have tried if I hadn't been forced into it, kind of like Harry Potter, where it's like not really my thing, but then someone forced you into it, and you're like, oh, I had an enjoyable time. So Final Fantasy IX is the same way. It was kind of comical and goofy and kind of a throwback after the gritty, super like nihilistic Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
But it was fun despite its corniness and goofiness. For a lot of people, it tops their favorite lists.
Well, cool. That sounds quite fun. Are you planning on playing it again?
No, it's one of those. The only Final Fantasy game I really replay is 6. I got about a quarter of the way through 8 when it came out on PC, and then I just sort of found more modern games that were more fun.
So you're saying that Final Fantasy isn't really holding up?
It's just, yeah. The thing is that the older games, the ones with the sprites, they force you to use your imagination. So when the graphics get better, it's not such a hit on those because you've been filling in all the blanks with your mind anyway. But in the PlayStation 1 era, when everything was like trying to be realistic, but it was still blocky and kind of goofy looking, it's hard. Like they just don't age as well as those sprite-based Super Nintendo games.
Yeah, and it's like it's funny about so there's the uncanny valley that you've talked about a few times on here of like getting too close to a graphical representation of something. There starts to be this eerie. It sets off a psychological thing in us where we're designed to pick out flaws in others and to separate ourselves from them, whether it's disease or because typically that's kept us safe. It keeps you people of your tribe. You're more likely to feel affinity towards. And then like if somebody has like some spots on their face, you're like, oh my gosh, they look weird, and so you just back up from them. We're designed to look away from the different, and so. Or be averse to the different, and so that's what happens with the uncanny valley. Is it's gotten so close that it now sets off that trigger in our mind.
It's like
yeah, like oh, what's wrong with your face? It's like the like Oblivion effect, sort of. Whenever you're talking to the guards, they just don't look real.
Yeah, or when you're making your characters in a Fallout game, or it's like put a mask on, get into a power suit, don't have to look at you as much.
Yeah, that's part of the thing I talk about in whenever I was doing seminars for businesses on conflict resolution and how to be a better manager. I would talk about. I was like, you guys want to see something crazy? Is that we've done experiments on like body language and facial language, and for some reason we can detect up to I think it was 0.7 nanometers of a change in someone's eyebrow. But we don't pick up less than like I think it's like 3 or 4 centimeters on a body movement. It just doesn't register, right? Like you take 2 photos, you look at them side by side, and you're like, it looks the same if their arm is slightly moved. But if it's crazy. And I show them an example. I go, watch this. I go, listen, imagine that you're talking to me, and here's my face, and you guys can't see this at home, but I'll explain what's happening. I'm just dead faced, and I'm just kind of like I'm actually listening, just a regular person in the audience. And I'm like, now watch this. I'm going to move my eye, I say, and watch this very slightly different change. I'll move my hand. I move my hand like a nanometer, and no one cares. I'm like, it looks like I'm listening, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, now watch this. I just put my eyebrow up just a centimeter, if that, and then I'm like, now what does it look like? And they're like, oh, it looks like you're contentious, that you're not buying what I'm putting out. I'm like, exactly, like that's the thing. We're designed to put a huge meaning in a tiny facial feature. So whenever you get faces in games and art, it's just so easy to go wrong.
Yeah, we're hypersensitive to be able to pick up the mood and like the approval of others because we've evolved to be like very good at fitting in. Like that's how we survive. That's how our social species works. So, and we communicate most of emotion through our face. So of course we're going to spend more attention to that. So when you try and make a Final Fantasy the movie, remember that movie Final Fantasy Children of Dreams or whatever, the
Advent Children.
Yeah, it's just like everyone looked a little bit weird and people were kind of concerned.
I still fucking love that. Not because it was a good film, but it took the Final Fantasy cool shit and brought it to life. Yeah. And then like that flower, the flower in the Citadel fight that happens, and then the fight between Sephiroth and Cloud is sick. But anyway, yeah, so Uncanny Valley, that's happening. So for my news items, there was quite a bit that was like really cool that I want to talk about. But I think we might save that for an episode, so I'll just bring up a couple of the smaller things. Like, first of all, did you hear about Linkle getting released? Hyrule Warriors. So Linkle,
female Link.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and it's like a Link. That's a female, sure, but she has a little bit different of a costume. It's more of like a cloak or a
like a hood.
like a hood, yeah, and a cloak, and then she's got 2 crossbows, so not the master sword and the shield,
Hmm.
Hyrulean crest shield, and yeah. Hello. Hey, sorry, connectivity again. I don't know what's going on. The last 2-3 days it's been doing this. But how did you feel about Linkle?
Yeah, I think she looks cool. I don't know much about her except that she's got double crossbows, which is always a fun character concept. The dual wielding crossbows is a fun kind of build for a character in D&D. And yeah, the name I could do without. I could have probably come up with a better name than Linkle for her, but she looks cool. I like the character design.
Yeah, I think she looks pretty cool too. I think like everything, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad or a little bit of good and a little bit of bad that comes from both. First of all, I was like, why doesn't she just have the sword and shield? If this is a fantasy anyway of a little boy taking on a massive warthog, guy, basically. I know it's not a warthog, but depending on what manifestation of Ganon we're going with, why can't we just do that? Like, it's a fantasy anyway. It's a tiny little kid. But the dual crossbow is pretty cool, I guess. It just seems to be one of those like, we'll make it a little different. We'll make it different enough where it's believable. And
I don't know if it's that so much as it's about variety, because she's going to be showing up on Hyrule Warriors on the 3DS, and we already have like 2 nearly identical Links, like adult Link and young Link, to play on that game. So if it was like girl Link and she also was like a sword and shield person, the movesets would be pretty similar. Like this way they can give her an entirely new playstyle and moveset. Like I imagine if she showed up on an actual game, she would have access to different weapons, but I don't know. It's like Smash Brothers. Remember sometimes in Smash Brothers you get like Link and then Roy and Marth, and there's like 5 different Fire Emblem characters, and they're all more or less the same.
yeah,
So when they add the new one, Robin, they gave her like a spell book and the sword, so her moveset was varied up. It's like, oh, you gave her spells because she's a girl, and girls aren't good at swords. Like, no, it's just variety, man. We've already got like 5 sword wielding guys that all have more or less. There's only so many things you can do with a sword, bro.
yeah. Well, I hope that's the case, and I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Although, one of the guys hinted that the character might show up in Zelda for the Wii U. Not sure if it's going to be a playable character. I doubt it, or a non-playable character, which have been better. But yeah, it was just kind of my thoughts on the issue. It's a weird thing, and look at some of the Japanese companies in general being like, yeah, we're not really interested in all that crazy over obsession you guys have with gender.
Yeah, they are very different when it comes to gender politics than we are. But speaking of Nintendo, the codename NX is their next console they're coming out with, and it's been pretty mysterious. We didn't know what it was going to be. Like, is it like a phone? Is it like a new 3DS? They have announced that they're planning on making it a home console, able to compete with the PS4 and Xbox One. So it's going to be one of those like high-end kind of Xbox One, PS4 consoles. So what do you think about that? They're going to be joining that market, trying to reclaim a share of the high-end, high-definition, high graphics market.
I don't know, man. I've been putting a lot of thought into Nintendo recently. Apparently, when they developed their online platform, they didn't even, whenever some of the consultants were talking to them about it, they didn't even know what PS or Xbox Live or PlayStation Network was or what they did. They're just like, oh, we don't know. We've never touched it. We've never seen it. And that just seems like, I like that. I like the fact that they're coming at it with a fresh perspective, but you do want to have some idea of competition.
Yeah.
And this consultant in particular said that he just stopped even referencing it after the 4th or 5th day because it was just blank stares. They wouldn't even respond. He's like, well, on the PlayStation Network they have these trophies. Everyone can see them. Nothing, just deadpan. They're like, oh, okay, well, never mind. So yeah, 4th, 5th day just stopped. So I think there's a certain naivety they have there, whether you think that's charming or it's just going to kill them. But I like the fact that they're coming over in high graphics. That's something that's been lacking for them, and maybe keeping some of their market share smaller than it needs to be. But on the other hand,
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's space for them in they'll have to rebrand really to compete in that like bro game market. Like I was helping this older couple pick out a console because they were like in their 60s, and one of them had just like had a stroke recently, and he wanted to get into gaming because he heard that gaming can kind of help your cognitive processes.
Mhm.
And also he just was more sedentary after his stroke, like he wasn't so much into outdoor stuff anymore. And so they bought an Xbox One, but they wanted to see my Wii U and PlayStation 4 and kind of compare them. And so I was like, all right, so the PlayStation 4 is like this, the Xbox One is like this. They're all more or less the same, except for which exclusives you have. And then you have the Wii U, and I was trying to push the Wii U because it's less complicated.
yeah.
Like the games on the Wii U have less of an assumption that you know how to game already. Like when you pick up Batman Arkham Knight, like there's no tutorial. It just says like R1, and you're like R1, and then you press it shoots a grappling hook out, and you're like, okay, that's what R1 does. But like moving the camera, moving around, like it kind of assumes you've been playing the last 15 years of games before you pick up a game like that, right? Well, this will be a fun one to edit.
Ugh.
Hey.
Hey, sorry again. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Windows 10, I think.
Mm.
Hmm.
So anyway, I was trying to sell them on the Wii U because it's a little bit it doesn't assume that you've got this like 15 years of gaming experience behind you with their games. They're just like, everything's so weird and random and different. We're not following a set path, and it seems to be easier for like non-gamers to pick up. But they were pretty focused on the Xbox One, and it actually was kind of funny because I was like, all right, they're like, can you? Because I showed them Batman Arkham Asylum or Arkham Knight. I showed them Mario Party, and then they're like, can we try our game? So we plugged it in, go through all the first time updates because they never set it up. So Xbox One is downloading all the updates. They're making you sign in with your Xbox account, which if you don't have an Xbox account, that's a whole deal. So I'm trying to get them to where they actually play their game, right? And so they're like nodding and they're waiting. It's like 30 minutes. We finally got them in, and it's like, all right, let's try your game. They got Gran Turismo. It's a racing game, so we stick it in there, and it's like, okay, this game will be ready to play in about an hour. We have to install it into your game. I was like, wait, what? Apparently, I didn't know this. Did you know this? The Xbox One, you have to download every CD onto its hard drive before you can play it, but you still need the CD to play it.
What? Oh.
Yeah, I did not know that, and I was like, wow, okay. Because in my mind, having never owned an Xbox One, I was just like, oh, it's just like the PlayStation 4. They're pretty similar. So I was expecting this process to take like, I don't know, 30 minutes to set up the Xbox One for the first time and start playing a game, because that's how it was with my PlayStation 4. No, it took like an hour and a half before they could actually play a game, and they were getting kind of frustrated. So anyway, all that to say is that despite all of the throwbacks, they immediately dismissed the Wii U as like, no, we want like a serious game. We want like a hardcore game, like the ones they show us at GameStop. And I was like, okay, well then these are your only two options. And I'm wondering if that idea of like the only hardcore options are PlayStation and Xbox is going to hurt NX if it tries to go into that market.
That's a good question. I feel like what Nintendo brings to the table is innovation, and that just made it difficult. I was researching the Wii U a little bit to figure out what went wrong, and they were saying that, like, first of all, there's a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff. Okay, first of all, in the code, it's got the compatibility. Everything's set in place right now where you can have two Wii U consoles or the two Wii U gamepads playing at one time. They just didn't do it. They didn't go forward with it. They just decided against it for whatever reason. I don't know why. And then maybe it was unnecessary. It was redundant.
Probably a price issue. Those gamepads are probably the most expensive part of the Wii U.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And people wouldn't want to, like, $100 for a controller.
Yeah, that's probably cute. That's probably true. But another part was that yeah, it had to do with they're so obsessed with kind of doing their own thing that they can't be competitive in the market with some of the other games, and so people were just like, oh, that's got a whole different infrastructure to code for, and Xbox and PC and PS4 are all playing nice together. And so I wonder if they didn't just do that, but then what designates them from any of the others? You know, like if they're not doing something innovative, then what keeps them competitive?
Right. So yeah, it'll be fun to watch. I don't know. I kind of liked having the Wii U as a secondary console and having a PC or a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One for like the primary, because then you could get all the exclusives, but you could still do the things. I mean, if they can pull it off to where all the third-party games come out on the Nintendo and they have the innovation, the first-person exclusive titles like Mario and Zelda and everything else, then maybe it'll work out for them. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I have a bad feeling about this, but we'll see. So next news item for me, somebody's bringing. So Mario Maker's a big deal. Somebody's making Mario Remaker on the PC. They're trying to bring it over because it's so wildly popular. This is something. This content, people, player made content or user made content. I don't get that. I just don't. I'm not creative. I don't know what it is. There's nothing in me that goes, oh, I want to make my own of this. Whenever I play like BioShock or like some game, it just doesn't occur to me that like. Like look at something and think like, well, that's some really cool trash. I wish I could make some trash in my game, or oh, that's cool. The wall is, the texture pack on that wall is pretty cool. I bet I could improve it. It just doesn't even occur to me.
Yeah. But there's so many people playing games that as long as it occurs to like 1% of the population, we're going to see a lot of mods.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So here's a cautionary tale. Someone left their kid alone with their iPad over Christmas, and he's 7 years old, and he's playing Jurassic World, and he decides to buy himself some Dino Bucks, microtransactions. You know how these microtransaction models are looking for the whale, right? Like that 1% of the population who's willing to throw down like $100 on a free-to-play game, which sometimes is me, right? Like on Star Wars Galactic Heroes, I've probably spent $100 on that game because I'm having so much fun with it.
Yeah.
But in this case, it wasn't just a whale. It was the whale from Jurassic World that ate the smaller dinosaur whales and then ate the human. It was like a mega whale because this little kid spent over $5,000 on microtransactions.
Oh my God.
On his parents' iPad.
Oh, that kid is getting in trouble, guaranteed.
Yeah. So, cautionary tale, parents out there, make sure that your games with microtransactions are locked, parental controls, whatever you have to do not leave them unattended because it's pretty easy to buy these games, especially if they know your password.
Ugh. Yeah, my last one is a funny one about Fallout 4. A lot of people can hopefully relate to this. It's just I found an article that said 5 life lessons you can learn from Fallout 4. It's pretty funny for anyone who's played it, and if not, it's easy to explain. But first of all, lesson 1: don't judge people by their appearances. Like people look gritty and shitty, but that has nothing to do with who they are. And then there's people who look slick and nice, and you can't trust those people either. It's just a matter of treat everyone based on your interaction with them. I thought it was pretty funny. Achieving your goals requires planning ahead, and this involves like their leveling up system. This got kind of be any RPG, especially that sphere grid from like FF10.
Mm-hmm. Or you gotta know where you're trying to build so you don't waste your points.
Exactly, yeah. Or like in D&D, a lot of those builds, you're like, I want that feat. How do I get there? Especially in like 3rd edition.
Yeah, 3rd edition, you need a whole blueprint by level 1.
Yeah, you were like, well, let's see. I want power attack because later I want cleave, and it's like a whole
I get to this prestige class by level 7, so I need this.
Yeah. But a cool one on Fallout 4 is a post-apocalyptic game, right? So it says money is kind of dumb, but still hugely important. So in Fallout 4, it's kind of funny. You get this thing called pre-war money, which is just money, just printed paper. But what good does that have to do if it's not backed by gold, right? So it's not worth a whole lot. But since it's arbitrary, they might as well use some other system, right? Like if you've got people from all over the place, the paper bills don't really pay the bills anymore. So they use bottle caps in that game, which is kind of funny. But the point is money is arbitrary anyway. It's the value that piece of paper, that placeholder has that's important. And it's just not something you can opt out of. Later you can, swap things and whatnot. But yeah, money's always nice to have. This strange third-party token system. It's weird. Lesson 4 was a home-cooked meal is better than junk food, which I thought was kind of funny. You cook in the game, which is something that's new to this one, and you can improve, your stats and stuff without having to take drugs like you had to so many times in the past. And finally, this is the more controversial one. There's no cosmic morality. It was just saying, like once shit hits the fan in a post-apocalyptic world, there aren't a whole lot of paladins anymore. And yes, they do have the Brotherhood of Steel. Like some post-apocalyptic games have that kind of thing. It's just so rare. Most people are just living, day to day. These higher morality of like, should I steal? I shouldn't steal food for my kid becomes a lot less black and white when you have no money and your kids are literally starving in front of you and somebody is fat rich next to you and has an extra piece of bread that's just sitting there and they've just eaten a 6-course meal and you're kind of like, it's still black and white. I don't know, man. My kid is literally dying. Yeah, and you give them an opportunity. You say something like, oh man, I really like some of that bread. Look, my kid is literally dying. And the kid's like, it's skin and bones, and they're like, no thanks, it's mine. Then there's like a moment where it's like, is that right? Is that right or wrong? Like you kind of make your own morality is the point. And we just don't realize it. So pretty interesting stuff. There was other ones you shouldn't take away from the game, but I don't think those are as funny.
Cool. Well, my last item is more hacking. Some modder took his new 3DS and ran Windows 95 on it somehow.
What's the point?
I don't know.
For what reason?
He didn't stop to ask if he should do it. He was so obsessed with whether he could do it.
At what cost?
So yeah, Windows 95. It's all like old school and stupid looking, and he's just playing. He's like using it on his Game Boy. He's like, double click that icon, open up my game.
File manager.
Yeah, recycle
cool.
bin.
Well, that speaks to like how technology's progressed so much, though. It's ridiculous. A handheld device. I mean, of course, I guess there was those Windows. Do you remember Palm Pilots were a deal?
Yeah.
Remember that, man? Like I got one of those. This is how big of a deal they were. I started working at this like kind of investment firm back when I was in marketing, and it was like this kind of internship type thing. And I was there, and they prescribed or they gave a Palm Pilot to everyone. And so I had to carry one of those around and like use the little scheduling thing. Oh, it's so weird. Somebody would say something like, hey, we got a Thursday meeting. Is that cool? I'm like, oh yeah, pull it out of my back pocket. And the thing's the size of your back pocket, by the way. Pull it out and I'm like, hang on, hit the little on button. And I got a little stylus here. And I'm just like, setting up an appointment. It was so weird.
Yeah, that's why I'm not an early adopter. Some things you're just like, is this going to work?
Exactly. But anyway, yeah, so good. I guess that's quite a bit of news. We can go ahead and move on to the review section. All right, this is the review section of the podcast, and we're going to be talking about some of the games we have been playing. David, you have been out of town with a broken computer. Have you managed to play any games?
I have. I've been playing Batman Arkham Knight. I'm about halfway through that one. It's been hard to get some game time because, just nephews and nieces all over the place. But whenever they're in bed, I get my precious few hours of, like, no kids time. I'm like, this is how parents live their lives. And I was playing, it's pretty intense. I'm having a lot of fun with it. But I will give you a more thorough recap when I finish it. I also, because my brother was, at the reunion, I went ahead and bought The Last of Us Remastered, and I made him play it because I'm a sick person.
What do you think?
He was so he's not like much of a gamer. And that game, even on easy mode, is kind of hard.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit frustrating at spots, but he was just like, at the very beginning after the intro, he just looks at me and goes, what are you doing, man? We were having a good time. We're all having fun here. And I was like, keep playing, it gets worse. So he's like, he got about, here's what happened. And I remember this happened to me the first time I played it. He got to about halfway through summer, the first chapter of the game. And that flooded, well, first there's like the underground metro station, and it's just full of clickers. And it's hard to tell where to go to get out of it. So he had me get through him on that part because it was just, he didn't know which direction to get out because it's so dark. And then we got to that flooded subway station where you have to go around like pulling rafts for Ellie to get on, then dragging her around.
Yeah.
And looks like we've frozen again.
What? We did?
Oh, okay, you're back. Right. We have to pull rafts towards Ellie and she gets on and you pull them away and then she, like that part of it, that's just bad game design. I'm sorry. I know it's the game of the year like 200 times in a row, but that first part, because the same thing happened to me. I got really frustrated with the gameplay during summer because it was a lot of stupid problem solving. We have to go and find something, bring it back. She gets on, and it's unclear where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to be doing. So you just spend a lot of time wandering around the dark, being kind of lost. And he just felt kind of overwhelmed. Like he's just like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't know either. Like there was this one time where you first get Ellie, and it's like, all right, take her off the streets, use the back alleys. I'm like, you're just like in this big kind of open street, and there's a gate, and you can't get past the gate, and it's not really clear where you're supposed to go. And then finally, you see on the side there's this tunnel going down, but it's really hard to see from like almost every angle. So it's just a lot of stuff like that where you're wandering around, wondering what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, like the way Joseph described it was, this seems like a really fun game to watch because it feels like a movie. I would like to watch you play it because then it'd be like me watching a movie, and like my not knowing how the game works wouldn't be in the way of it. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Like it gets better. Like after you get out of summer, like it gets a little bit more linear. You kind of know where you're supposed to be going. There's less just wandering around lost. But that first, like, it's really sad because I feel like they're losing a lot of audience in that first kind of chapter because there's just so much unclear level design.
Mm.
Did you have that same problem the first time you played it?
I didn't, but that's probably because I sat down and was like, with like those big anime eyes, sparkly anime eyes, and I was like, here it goes. I was just so excited about it. But I just didn't run into those, but I hear people say that a decent amount. So, I believe it's true. I must have just lucked out.
Like it happened to me. It happened to Joseph when I was watching him play. It's like the same kind of thing. It's like, well, what now? She can't swim. I guess and it doesn't stop you from exploring too far. So he swims like a mile away, still looking for stuff. I'm like, dude, you're probably too far. You should probably go back, see if there's like a ladder or something or a raft. And so, like, I kind of remembered how to solve it because I'd been there before, but
there were obviously points that were
unclear.
meant to pad out the time, like you're talking about those little raft things. I'd be like, if you're going to be hanging out with her for a while, you can teach her to swim. It takes like a
you've
week.
got a year together. You might as well. Seems like a useful skill to have in the apocalypse.
It seems kind of like foreshadowing in a kind of game, doesn't it? I don't know what that is, but if this was a story of some sort, it seems like there might be a problem with that later, or maybe it's a moment of growth for her later. Sure. You never know, but yeah, it's just whatever it is. It's a limitation in a zombie apocalypse, and that is not okay.
Right. So that was kind of that's like my biggest complaint with the game. It's just that it's the parts that aren't fun are not fun, and you have to kind of slog through them to get to the cool parts.
Yeah, there's a lot of real sneaky parts too, but I don't know, that added to the fun. Although some of it, like going through the college area, the dorms and stuff, just felt weird. I was like, what am I doing? Why am I here again? And they're like, well, you got to meet that weird professor dude or whatever. I don't remember the point. That was completely forgettable.
Yeah, but like, the good news is because it was the remastered edition, it came with the Left Behind, like the Ellie like prequel story.
Oh.
And that was actually really fun. I played about half of it, and it's really cool. Like, it starts off, that scene where Ellie's kind of on her own because Joel gets injured, and she's trying to, like, take care of him, nurse him back to health. Like, it kind of fills in the gaps of what she's doing during that, like her finding the first aid kit, and, like, getting through an old shopping mall, trying to find what she needs to help Joel. And so you play as Ellie for that part, but then like throughout it, things will remind her of her backstory, where like before back when she was in school, and like her friend comes to visit her, and they go and explore. Her friend just joined up with the Fireflies. It's like their last night together, so they're gonna go out and have best friend time in this old mall. They find a way to turn the power back on. They're just playing on the carousel and playing arcade games and stuff. So it's this really fun, like kind of lighthearted moments interspersed with like, oh shit, Joel, I gotta help him. Like it goes back and forth the way the story was being told, and it's really well done. Like it's my favorite storytelling part of the game so far is in this expansion. So if you ever have a chance to pick up the little DLC for that game, it's definitely worth looking at.
Oh man, I meant to when the price came down. I just never did, and then my PS3 took a shit right after I used it for research. It died. It was dying in the last week, and I was like, oh no, please, last bit of data collection. I just need so many more subjects for the power analysis. But anyway, well, that's cool, man. I'm excited about that. That sounds fun. Yeah, for me, the Steam Winter Sale has been going on. I picked up Undertale for just a couple bucks. I haven't played it yet though, and I'll tell you why. Because, and the Talos Principle, it's this game that supposedly is, just mind blowing. But what I have been playing the crap out of is Here's the Storm, because here's the thing. I'm sure everybody's done hearing about that.
Should we just rename this the Here's a Storm section?
Yeah, no, I plan to get to the rest of them. I really do. But the reason why I've been practicing is because I got picked up by an amateur team We're gonna play a couple games on this little league. See if we can't win something, but it's more for fun, just to see what can happen. I want to get into like a 5-man, competitive group, and we've been trying to kick it off with our dudes, but just not enough interest. So, well, working with a couple other guys, so it should be fun. Some scrimmages and stuff, legit. But yeah, nothing serious. But I'm excited about that. Playing some games.
You played the new hero that came out, the daughter of Cenarius?
Yeah, she's cool. She's really squishy, dude. She's so squishy. She doesn't do enough damage.
What is she, support or?
She's a damage. She's like this poison person, so she can like hit people with this poison spear, and then but she's so squishy. She's got. I swear, she's like a piece of paper. Like if someone could just blow her up, just anyone, pretty much anyone just turns her on a tank and blow her up. Anyone. So she's
the one that when she's in the party and Nova's picking a target, she's like, "Okay, Jane, whoa, who's this?" Click.
Oh yeah, Whenever we're playing and you're like, they call her the feed character, because anytime someone picks her, they're like, well, we lose, GG. And if they have a stealthy on the other team, some kind of assassin that ambushes, it's like, all right, good game. That's feed all game, because she's just you can with anyone, she can be surrounded by people, you can just jump in, murder her, and jump out because it's that fast, and then it's like, dang it. So it's just this frustrating idea.
Oh, we forgot to give her any hit points.
She's fun to play. She jumps around, like she has a little dough. Kind of, you feel playful when you're playing her because she has unpredictable movement patterns, which makes her harder to hit by things, except by people who just shoot her in the face, which she dies. But it's fun. It's
so like a deer. Her one weakness is people shooting her with a high-powered rifle.
Exactly right. The one weakness. Anything else should be fine. But yeah, it's good. Good times.
Cool.
But I've also, what else have I been playing? I've been playing Wii U quite a bit, but yeah, nothing beyond what I've been saying from before. Playing some games with the kids and stuff. They're really liking this family gaming thing we do.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's been fun.
Yoshi's Woolly World.
Yeah, that game's adorable. I want to play some more of that too.
Cool. Well, let's move on to our in-depth analysis.
All right.
I'm going to make some more tea real quick.
Should I start